prove that it wasn't.
Lindsey.
Former impeachment manager Lindsey Graham.
At the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Thursday, November 7th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, as always, hoping to be your MBFF. A lot to cover tonight, my friends. There is so much going on, as always, in the time of Trump. And I will tell you this, top line, Donald Trump's criminality knows no bounds, there's no limits to it, and the evidence is piling up, not just in the impeachment, but something happened today with the Attorney General of New York, and I'll get into that in a few minutes as well. Got a lot of great guests tonight. Usually don't promote the guests at the top, but we got so many great guests from Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio, Chris Matthews from MSNBC, Ghazala Hashmi, who's one of the 4 Muslim women who made history on Tuesday night. She's the first Muslim ever elected state senator in Virginia. And Alexandra Rojas from Justice Democrats. And more. And more. I'm not kidding. It's packed with guests, but we're going to have time for some phone calls. First, though, I just enjoyed this so much. This was Hillary Clinton, the New York Times event. Deal book, it's called today, slamming Trump and talking about the phone call with Trump in the Ukraine, but also getting some nice shots at Trump, which I really enjoy when Hillary goes after Trump. Here's clip number 1, please.
Try to prove that it wasn't Russia that interfered in the 2016 election. It was little Ukraine. And you know, I do live rent-free in Donald Trump's head. I'm aware of that. But even for that, it's hard to imagine how they can be sitting around at, the golf club or whatever and say, we got to prove that Ukraine interfered. Vladimir just told me in my last secret phone call with him, get Ukraine responsible for that. I mean, we are living, you had Reed on earlier, we are living in a great Netflix special. And, I just want the series to end and we're all okay when it does. That's what I'm looking for.
Amen. That's what I want. And I've said this before. I think the Trump crime family is going to make a great crime miniseries on Netflix when this is all over. And we can watch it then and enjoy it thinking of Trump wherever he is, in Gitmo or Leavenworth or wherever they put former presidents who are criminals. So Colbert last night, and I got to play these 2 clips. And what I love about Colbert, he does this a lot. Trevor Noah does it sometimes as well, and Seth Meyers a bit. John Oliver certainly. They're not just making you laugh. They're informing an audience that might not be watching all the news like we do about detailed information about what is going on in the impeachment inquiry. And last night, various times, Colbert read out loud portions of Bill Taylor, the ambassador's transcript, to the audience and the jokes around it. But by showing him the transcript, he's informing people, young or old, or whoever, who might not be following the news or following that minutia, exactly what's up. And this is so important. So here's first Trump. And when you hear Colbert, he's literally reading from the Bill Taylor transcript. Here's clip number 2.
Taylor also made it clear he knew the political impact of this. As I understood, the reason for investigating Burisma was to cast Vice President Biden in a bad light, which he went on to say benefited a political campaign for the re-election of President Trump. Well, if it's for a political campaign, the law requires the standard candidate disclaimer.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this corruption.
Yeah, puts it out there.
That's good. That's funny. And then here is Colbert and his team showing Lindsey Graham a couple of weeks ago on Axios TV saying, hey, what's in the transcript? It's not a transcript, Trump's confession, but it was not alarming to Lindsey Graham. But him saying, if there's evidence before that sort of suggesting if there's a criminal conspiracy, then I would look at it. But now that we have this evidence, Lindsey Graham's changed his tune to backpedal even more. But I love that Colbert is doing this like a news show, but making jokes in between it. So first you're going to hear Lindsey Graham from about 3 weeks ago, and then now. Here's clip number 3.
Lindsey Graham. These are your folks, Lindsey. Now, just a few weeks ago, Graham told Axios this.
If you could show me that, Trump actually was engaging in a quid pro quo outside the phone call, that would be very disturbing.
Well, the transcripts clearly show that, but...
I'm not going to read these transcripts.
How tragic. Graham is clearly working through the 5 stages of Republican impeachment grief. Anger, denial, won't read, can't read, no habla inglés. Well...
And that is the pivoting defense of Trumpers. And look, we get upset. We hear Lindsey Graham like this is what he said yesterday, and it upsets me. I get it. Clip number 4, please.
Former impeachment manager Lindsey Graham says he's not going to read the impeachment transcripts. Really?
I'm not going to read these transcripts. The whole process is a joke. The whole idea that there's a quid pro quo based on somebody changing their testimony, presuming there was. Volker said there was not. He's the special envoy. You just pick things you like. Y'all hate this guy. You want to get him impeached. I'm not buying into Schiff running a legitimate operation over there. I was the impeachment manager. We did it vastly different. This is a political vendetta. Mueller, to me, was the final authority on everything Trump. I've read the transcript for myself. I made up my own mind. Volker, the special envoy, said there was no quid pro quo. Sunderland has changed his testimony to say he presumes there was. What I can tell you about the Trump policy toward the Ukraine, it was incoherent. It depends on who you talk to. They seem to be incapable of forming a quid pro quo. So, no, I find the whole process to be a sham, and I'm not going to legitimize it.
So there you got a lot of the typical things. It's bad process. And then the new defense, Trump is too stupid to do quid pro quo, which is extortion. Again, extortion is the simplest thing. Everyone knows it. They probably doing it in the time of caveman. Like, give me this or you don't get that. And I'll bash your head in with I guess then at that time, a club. But this is what we're dealing with right here. So what are the updates today in terms of impeachment? Today, it's kind of some interesting stuff. George Kent, a career diplomat since 1992, his testimony was released today. And some of the key important parts are he has made it clear that in a White House briefing he was at watching in a secure setting. He was told Donald Trump is the one who withheld the aid to the Ukraine. We all knew that. Now we have someone testifying to that. And the testimony was simply, was there any discussions of the meeting on July 18th about any sort of freeze of the security assistance to Ukraine? That's the question. Answered by Kent, yes. Question, can you describe the discussion? Kent says, it was described as a hold, not a freeze. There was a representative of the Office of Management and Budget. I was at the State Department in a security video conference. And he just said to the rest of the participants that the head of the Office of Management and Budget, who was the acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, at the direction of the president, had put a hold on all security assistance to the Ukraine. Question, Mulvaney had put a hold at the direction of the president? Is that what you heard? Answer, that is what the representative of the Office of Management and Budget stated. So now you have testimony. It's not hearsay. It's direct testimony under oath at the OMB head. But we knew that Donald Trump was withholding aid. The problem was Bill Taylor's testimony released yesterday said he didn't know who actually ordered the aid withheld. Even though there's been reporting in the New York Times and Washington Post, it was Trump that did it. Now you have testimony by someone who's saying point blank. We also have Mick Mulvaney's comments a few weeks ago making it clear they withheld the aid. So now the entire chain is connected there, from the aid being withheld going right to Donald Trump. He also testified today, Kent, about Rudy Giuliani. And Rudy Giuliani is now lawyered up. He probably lawyered up weeks ago because he knew he was in trouble there. He testifies a lot about Giuliani up to no good. Do not fall for any of the next Republican arguments, which will be Giuliani was rogue in doing this on his own. That is not what happened. Rudy Giuliani's not going out on his own and doing this entire campaign. This is done by Donald Trump. We know that. He's Giuliani's attorney. According to George Kent's testimony today, that he was told, that he said that Giuliani's, quote, assertions and allegations against former Ambassador Yovanovitch were without basis, untrue, period. And I've brought up her name several times. She's the American ambassador, Maria Yovanovitch. And she was targeted, she was like the convergence of two different paths of trying to destroy her. You had the one of last summer with Giuliani's associates, Parnas and Fruman, who were indicted. Last summer, sitting down with Congressman Pete Sessions, Texas congressman then, and saying, we're going to raise money for you, lots of money. We need you to help us get rid of Yovanovitch. And now, as it turns out, the testimony today, Sessions wrote the letter that day of the meeting to Mike Pompeo and said, get rid of her. She's bad-mouthing the president. On the other hand, you had Giuliani, as Kent and others have testified, leading his own smear campaign of her in a much more public way a few months later. It now seems clear that Giuliani's the guy behind all of this. But the guy behind all of that is Donald Trump. As Giuliani has maintained over and over in tweets and statements, he was simply helping his client, and that's Donald Trump. So this is all Donald Trump. Now, something else happened today with the Attorney General in New York State here. And to me, it's just more evidence, and we don't need it, of Donald Trump's moral corruptness and the fact he has no moral radar. He's got one that just points whatever's illegal or immoral, do that. But something else happened today. And you may recall last year, we talked about it in the show earlier this year, actually, the Attorney General in New York here had filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, his children, and the Trump Foundation for their way they had used the Trump Foundation, which was a charity organized under New York law with certain tax benefits for the Trumps. And the lawsuit alleged that Trump was using his charity, Trump Foundation, as his own piggy bank and using it for his own things, not for any kind of charitable purposes, for Trump purposes. Because everything's about Trump, folks. Everything is about Trump. When you're figuring out anything Trump has done, figure out how does this benefit him personally. That could be financially or politically. How does it benefit him? Well, what happened today is a Supreme Court judge here in New York, that's the lowest level. That's our trial judge in New York, is the Supreme Court it's called. The Court of Appeals in New York is the equivalent of the U.S. Supreme Court. Well, a trial judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $2 million in damages for illegal activity in using his charity. But part of this is also this was actually part of what appears to be a settlement, because I read the press release from the Attorney General. And what's interesting is Trump has admitted to wrongdoing here, but it's just below criminal liability for his wrongdoing. Here's what Donald Trump has admitted to. So Trumpers, say whatever you want. Trump admitted to this. There's no doubt it's in the Attorney General's press release and to be part of the court record. Trump admitted to improperly using Trump Foundation assets for his 2016 campaign. So as part of the settlement, so it's a $2 million judgment entered by the court, but it's part of a settlement. It said that Mr. Trump admits to personally misusing funds at the Trump Foundation and agrees to restrictions on future charitable services. How did he use them? He was using money raised by a charity, and some of the money was contributed by him, but money by other people, to help his campaign in 2016. He ran an event for himself in Iowa and said it was a charitable event. It was a campaign fundraiser. He pretended to be generous about things when he was actually giving away things connected to his campaign. He was actually using the funds from the charity. Why this is not a crime is beyond me. He also admits, Trump admits a number of key facts about other self-dealing that he initiated. Specifically, he used the foundation funds to settle legal obligations for his company, and he paid for a portrait of himself that cost $10,000. So Donald Trump violated New York charity laws. He used charitable donations to help his campaign and help himself personally. And the only reason, forget legalese, the only reason he's not charged with a crime is that I guess it was not knowing and willful enough to get to that point. But he's admitting in court, based on negotiations with his lawyers, that he committed this wrongdoing. Donald Trump will even steal from a charity. That's the kind of guy he is. That's the leader of the GOP. So the impeachment stuff is part and parcel. And this goes to his character. We're not going to have that kind of trial where you're going to introduce character evidence, but this is the world we live in right now. So here's where we stand. If you still believe Donald Trump is innocent, if you do not believe he's done anything wrong, contact me directly, dean@deanofradio.com. I have a pyramid scheme I've been working on, and I think you're going to love it. You're going to get a lot of money back. It involves unicorns and some kind of man-eating plant. You may have seen it, Little Shop of Horrors. That was a documentary, not a Broadway show. And bingo, this is where we are, my friends. So, look, we got a lot of guests tonight. There's one little topic I want to talk about. We have our first guest in about 15 minutes. And then we have the guests, not the entire show, but most of the show until the third hour. Tulsi Gabbard was here today. And I know Michelangelo brought it up. I just want to tell you a little bit. Tulsi Gabbard went on Breitbart Radio. That's her choice. She can go on whatever she wants. I don't think she realizes she's running for the Democratic nomination, because I don't think she's running for the Democratic nomination. So Tulsi Gabbard, just so it's clear for everyone, here's what I want to add to this. Myself, Matt, our producer, including yesterday when we knew she was coming to this building, emailed her and offered her to come on my show. We have offered her, Michael has offered her, other progressive shows have offered her to come on. We're not going to bring her on as an ambush. We're going to have her on as a candidate and answer questions about the issues. It's that simple. For us, she actually says no, they're a campaign. For others, they just ignore. So when you're going on Tucker Carlson and you're going on Sean Hannity and you're going on Breitbart, not just Patriot, but Breitbart Radio, who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach Democrats? Of course not. What she's up to, we can debate it. It could be the least insidious, the least concerning. She simply wants a high-paying job with Fox News when this is all over. That's fine. She'll make a lot of money. She'll live a much better life than having running for re-election every 2 years. The worst case scenario, and she just qualified for the debate, the next debate coming up in 2 weeks, is that her whole goal is to destroy Democrats on the stage. Now I look back to her attacks on Senator Harris, Kamala Harris, and I'm like, was that part and parcel of a plan that she had just to go on the stage and to attack Democrats because she knew she couldn't win? Or was it, in this sense, good faith, just going after people? Campaign trying to be the best candidate. We're not sure right now. We won't know the answer to this is all over. We know she's not running for re-election, but we will all know when this is all over. So let's take a break. Come back. I'd love to hear from you about, by the way, there was a Jennifer Williams, not a household name by any stretch, testified today before the impeachment inquiry from confirmed sources. She's an aide, by the way, to Mike Pence. What we do know a little bit, we don't have the transcript, that she was what she heard on the phone call with Trump was not normal. It was political. She's not a lawyer, or she might be a lawyer, but she's not saying it's a crime. We don't know anything more, but it was not, she didn't go in there going, hey, that was normal. That was a fine conversation. Nope, a little bit different. So, all right, so let's take a break, come back. We have a lot of guests. I'd love to hear from you. We'll probably have like 10, 15 minutes of time for phone calls today, and maybe in the second hour a little bit. 866-997-4748. Where are we going with all this? How is this going to end? This is unreal. Let's take a break. Come right back. You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, where we crush Trump's lies every single day
on Sirius XM Progress 127.